Commander Park Hyun-woo had been drinking his morning coffee when the universe decided to throw him into hell. The bridge of the Iron Phoenix hummed with its usual quiet efficiency, stars streaking past the viewports as they patrolled the outer rim. It was supposed to be another boring patrol run, the kind that made junior officers complain about wasting time in empty space. Then the distress signal hit their communications. Array like a sledgehammer, the crackling transmission filled the bridge. With desperate voices speaking in the melodic language of the Zephyrians, Hyun-woo set down his coffee cup so hard it nearly shattered, his weathered face going pale as the ship's translator kicked in. "This is Colony Leader Veltar of the Zephyrian settlement New Haven. Emergency protocols are in effect. Vorthok Warfleet has entered our system. Repeat, the Vorthok Dominion has come for us. Our orbital defenses are down. Shield generators failing across all major cities." The voice cracked with emotion, and Hyun-woo could hear explosions in the background. His chest tightened as he recognized Veltar's voice. The old Zephyrian had personally delivered the cure for the Red Death plague to Earth 3 years ago, refusing any payment except friendship and some vegetable seeds for his people's struggling colonies. "Please, if anyone receives this transmission, we are not a military target. We are farmers, teachers, healers. We have 40,000 civilians here, including 8,000 children in the evacuation centers. The Vorthok ships are not responding to surrender signals. They're not here to conquer. They're here to exterminate." Lieutenant Kim Soo-jin, the communications officer, looked up from her console with tears in her eyes. She was young, maybe 25, and this was probably her first real distress call. "Commander, I'm picking up massive energy signatures in the New Haven system. Those readings are consistent with orbital bombardment." The transmission continued, Veltar's voice becoming more desperate. "The first cities are burning. Talar Prime is gone. The children's evacuation ships are trying to reach hyperspace, but the Vorthok are hunting them down like animals. By the ancient treaties, we call upon any who hear this message. Gas. We invoke the bonds of friendship and the laws of civilized space. Please, help us. Help our children." Static overwhelmed the signal for a moment before Veltar's voice came through. One last time, barely a whisper. "This is New Haven. We remember Earth during the plague years. We remember friendship. Tell our story if we do not survive. Tell them we tried to live in peace." The transmission cut to dead silence. Hyun-woo stood frozen for 10 seconds that felt like 10 years. The Red Death plague had been humanity's darkest hour. Entire colonies had gone silent as the engineered virus swept through the outer settlements. Earth's medical technology had been useless against it. Then the Zephyrians arrived, appearing out of nowhere with a cure they had developed in their biolabs. They saved 20 million human lives and refused every offer of payment. "Those bird-headed bastards saved my daughter," muttered Chief Engineer Bae-jin Sol from his station. His voice was thick with emotion. She was dying in the children's hospital on Proxima Colony. First wave of the plague. The Zephyrian medical team worked for 72 hours straight to synthesize the cure for her specific genetic markers. "Saved all of us," added Lieutenant Kim, her hands trembling over her console. "My entire family was on the medical transport ships when the plague hit the Jupiter stations. The Zephyrians didn't just give us the cure, they flew their own doctors into infected zones to help treat patients." Hyun-woo felt something cold and hard settle in his chest. The Zephyrians had never asked humans for military protection because they were pacifists by nature. Their entire culture was built around healing, growing things, and preserving life. They didn't even have weapons on their civilian ships because they believed violence corrupted the soul. "Navigation," he said quietly. "How long to reach the New Haven system? At maximum burn?" Navigator Corporal Oh Sang-min checked his instruments. 16 hours, sir? But Commander, that's deep in Council-controlled space. We'd need authorization from the Galactic Council to enter the system, and that could take days to process. Communications, get me Admiral Ko Minho on priority channels, Hyun-woo ordered. Emergency encryption. Sir Major Lee Do-yoon, his first officer, stepped closer. She was a by-the-book officer who usually kept him from making career-ending decisions. The Galactic Council has strict non-interference protocols. If we move into the New Haven system without proper authorization, they'll court-martial the entire command crew. We could start a diplomatic incident. Hyan-Woo turned to face her, and she stepped back at the look in his eyes. Dayun, those people saved humanity when we were dying. They asked for nothing except friendship. Now they're being slaughtered, and you want me to file paperwork? I'm just saying we need to think this through. I've thought it through. He turned to address the entire bridge crew. Everyone here knows what the Zephyrians did for us. They didn't ask for council permission when our people were dying. They just showed up and saved lives because it was the right thing to do. The bridge fell silent, except for the hum of the ship's engines. These were military personnel, trained to follow orders and respect the chain of command. But they were also human beings who remembered the plague years, who had lost friends and family until the Zephyrians arrived with their miracle cure. Communications? Did you reach Admiral Ko? Yu Hyan-Woo asked. Connection established, sir. Admiral is standing by on the secure channel. Admiral Ko Minno's grizzled face appeared on the main screen. The old veteran had fought in the Titan mining wars and had scars across his neck from shrapnel that nearly killed him. He was not a man who backed down from a fight. I heard the transmission, Hyan-Woo, the Admiral said before anyone could speak. Every ship in the sector picked up that distress call. How long until you can reach New Haven? 16 hours at maximum burn, sir. But ... but nothing. I'm sending you coordinates for a fleet rendezvous point. We're taking the entire third. Fleet KO's expression was grim. The Council can debate politics later. Right now, our friends are dying. Within 30 minutes, 17 human warships were changing course toward the New Haven system. The Iron Phoenix led the formation, her engines pushed to their maximum safe output. In the mess halls and crew quarters, sailors who had grown up hearing stories of the plague years prepared their weapons and said prayers for the people who had once saved them as they raced through hyperspace. Hyan-Woo stood on the bridge watching. The stars blur past. He thought about Veltar and the quiet dignity of the Zephyrian people. He thought about the children in those evacuation ships. Innocent beings whose only crime was being born to a species that believed in peace. Sir, Lieutenant Kim said softly. I'm detecting massive hyperspace distortions ahead. Multiple ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. The third fleet? Do-Yoon asked. No, sir. The signatures are wrong. Those are council ships. The Galactic Peacekeeping Force. Hyan-Woo closed his eyes. The council had moved faster than expected, positioning their ships to intercept the human fleet before they could reach New Haven. Politics and protocols were about to clash with human loyalty and the debt of honor they owed to their alien friends. But as he looked around the bridge at the determined faces of his crew, Hyan-Woo knew that some things were more important than following orders. Some debts could only be paid in blood and sacrifice. The Zephyrians had risked everything to save humanity once before. Now it was time to return the favor. Admiral Ko Minho had been staring at the same supply report for 20 minutes, his mind wandering to memories of his dead wife when the priority message from Commander Park exploded across his personal communication screen. The holographic display flickered to life, showing Park's tense face from the bridge of the Iron Phoenix. Admiral, we've received a distress call from New Haven. The Zephyrians are under attack by a Vorthok war fleet. They're asking for help. Sir, they saved us during the plague, and now they're dying. Koa set down his coffee mug and leaned back in his chair. The scars on his neck, souvenirs from a Titan mining explosion 15 years ago, throbbed the way they always did when he was angry. The Zephyrians. Those gentle bird people had appeared like angels when humanity was on the brink of extinction. He remembered the medical ships arriving at Earth with their miracle cure, refusing payment, asking only for friendship and some seeds to help their own struggling colonies. How bad is it? Ko asked, though he could already see the answer in Park's eyes. They're not trying to conquer, Admiral. They're exterminating. Eltar said they were hunting down evacuation ships full of children. Ko's jaw tightened. It met Veltar during the plague response coordination. The old Zephyrian had worked himself to exhaustion treating human patients, his feathered hands gentle as he administered treatments to dying children. The alien had cried when some patients couldn't be saved, actual tears for human strangers. "Me 5 minutes," Ko said, cutting the transmission. He stood up and walked to the window of his ready room, looking out at the stars beyond. The Soul's Fury was humanity's newest dreadnought, bristling with weapons that could crack moons in half. Around her, the Third Fleet maintained patrol. Formation in the Outer Rim. 23 ships crewed by the toughest bastards humanity had ever produced. Ko activated his personal communicator and began sending deployment orders. Within seconds, ship captains across the fleet were receiving their new mission parameters. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Captain Choi Ji-hai of the destroyer Mountain Tiger was first on the comm channel, her scarred face filling the screen. She'd lost her left eye during the asteroid mining conflicts, and the cybernetic replacement glowed with blue light. Her crew were former miners and colonial marines, men and women who'd fought claim jumpers and pirates in the outer belt for 20 years. "Admiral, the Mountain Tiger is ready for immediate deployment." "My people remember what the Zephyrians did for us during the plague," she said, her voice carrying the hard edge of someone who'd grown up fighting in zero gravity. "Half my crew would be dead if not for their medical intervention on Ceres Station." "No, Ji-hai. But understand what we're doing here," Ko replied, his voice carrying across the fleet-wide channel. "The moment we cross into New Haven space without council authorization, we become outlaws in the eyes of galactic civilization. They already consider humans dangerous Deathworlders who have no business interfering in civilized conflicts." Lieutenant Commander Yoon Jaemin, captain of the assault cruiser Iron Wolf, laughed grimly from his bridge. His ship was smaller, but faster than the others, designed for hit-and-run tactics. His crew were former Special Forces operators who'd cut their teeth fighting separatists in the Jupiter system. "Let them call us dangerous, Admiral. Our friends are dying while the Council debates proper procedures," Yoon said, checking his weapon systems. "My daughter was 6 years old when the plague hit New Tokyo Colony. The Zephyrian medical team worked for 3 days straight to save her life. They didn't ask for authorization forms or diplomatic clearances. They just saved her because it was right." Captain Nam Taehan of the heavy cruiser Soulshammer joined the channel, his weathered face showing the strain of command. His ship carried the heaviest firepower in the fleet. Weapons designed to break through enemy formations like a sledgehammer through glass. "Admiral, my ship is ready. My Marines are loading combat gear as we speak," Nam reported. "The Zephyrians gave us everything when we had nothing. They shared their medical knowledge, their food production techniques, even their art and music. They welcomed us as equals when every other species in the galaxy treated us like violent primitives." One by one, the other captains joined the channel. Captain Lee Sang-ho of the carrier Dragon's Wing, whose fighter squadrons had trained with Zephyrian pilots during joint exercises. Commander Kim Do-young of the battlecruiser Iron Mountain, whose ship had escorted Zephyrian medical transports during the plague years. Each captain had their own story, their own debt to the gentle aliens who'd saved humanity's future. "This is Captain Park Menesio of the Thunderstrike," came another voice. Her ship was one of the newer frigates, fast and deadly. "Admiral, my tactical officer is a Zephyrian exchange student, young fellow named Cretan. He's been trying to reach his family on New Haven for the past hour. No response from any of them." Ko felt something cold settle in his stomach. The Zephyrians were pacifist by nature, but they'd begun allowing their young people to serve on human ships as part of a cultural exchange program. These alien officers had become part of human crews, trusted friends and colleagues. "All ships, prepare for immediate hyperspace jump," Ko commanded. "We're going to New Haven. Authorization be damned. Load all weapon systems and prepare for combat. This is not a diplomatic mission or a rescue operation. This is war." The response from his captains was immediate and unanimous. These were veterans who'd fought in the vacuum of space, on airless moons where a single breach in their suits meant death, in the crushing gravity wells of gas giants where the pressure could flatten a human body in seconds. They were the children of Earth, a world that had forged them in fire, flood, earthquake, endless conflict. Captain Choi's voice came through the comm with deadly certainty. "Admiral, the Mountain Tiger is loaded for bear. My weapons officer just finished installing those new plasma torpedoes we've been testing. If the Vorthok want to massacre civilians, they're about to learn why the galaxy calls us Deathworlders. Iron Wolf is ready to hunt, added Yoon, his ship's engines already spinning up for the jump. My boarding teams are equipped with full combat gear. If we get close enough to any Vorthok ships, we'll show them what happens when you threaten our friends. Ko looked around at the faces of his captains on the multi-screen display. These were men and women who'd grown up in the hardest environments humanity had ever known. They'd survived corporate wars, pirate attacks, mining accidents, and a dozen other disasters that would have broken softer species. But they'd also learned something that many galactic civilizations seemed to have forgotten: loyalty to those who'd shown them kindness. All ships jump in 60 seconds, Ko announced. Remember, we're not just fighting for the Zephyrians. We're fighting for the principle that when good people are threatened by evil, someone has to stand up and do something about it. May call us dangerous, but today we're going to show them what that really means. The Third Fleet jumped to hyperspace as one, 23 ships carrying humanity's fury toward the New Haven system. Behind them, they left the safety of Council-protected space and the comfortable certainty of following orders. Ahead lay a battle that would either save their alien friends or damn them all. As galactic outlaws, but none of the human crews cared about the consequences. They'd made their choice the moment they heard children crying for help across the void of space. The Zephyrians had saved humanity once before. Now it was time to return the favor, no matter what it cost them. The transition from hyperspace to normal space always made Commander Park's stomach lurch. But this time, it wasn't the dimensional shift that made him want to vomit. It was the sight of what the Vorthok had done to New Haven. The human fleet materialized in the middle of a graveyard. New Haven's 3 massive orbital stations, each one home to 50,000 Zephyrians, were twisted metal corpses spinning slowly in the planet's gravity well. Debris fields stretched for thousands of kilometers, filled with the wreckage of civilian ships that had tried to evacuate. Park could see the distinctive hull patterns of Zephyrian medical vessels, their red cross markings still visible on the floating metal chunks. Jesus Christ, whispered Lieutenant Kim Soo-jin from her communications station. Sir, I'm picking up emergency beacons from the debris field. Survivors in the wreckage, but the signals are getting weaker. Park's hands clenched into fists as he stared at the main view screen. The planet below looked like it was bleeding. Entire continents glowed with the sickly orange light of burning cities. Atmospheric distortions showed where Vorthok plasma cannons had punched through the sky, turning peaceful farming communities into glass craters. Multiple enemy contacts reported sensor operator Im So-young, her voice tight with controlled anger. 37 Vorthok vessels maintaining standard battle formation around the planet. I'm reading 4 Dreadnought-class ships, 16 heavy cruisers, and 17 destroyer escorts are positioned to prevent any ships from reaching the surface. Park studied the tactical display, his heart sinking. The Vorthok fleet was massive, each ship bristling with weapons designed to crack planets. Their formation was perfect, textbook military doctrine that maximized firepower while protecting their larger vessels. Against the human fleet's 23 ships, it should have been an easy victory for the aliens. Sir, Major Lee Dayun said quietly, by conventional military analysis, this is suicide. They outgun us 3-1, and their ships are built for extended combat. Our vessels are designed for patrol duty and quick strikes. Conventional military analysis? Park repeated, his voice carrying a bitter edge. Dayun, when have humans ever been conventional? Admiral Ko's voice suddenly crackled across the fleet communication channel, reaching every ship simultaneously. All vessels, this is Admiral Ko, aboard the Soul's Fury. I see what you're all seeing. I know what you're all thinking. The numbers don't look good. Park could hear the old veteran's voice carrying the weight of command, the burden of sending good people into battle knowing some wouldn't come home. But underneath the professional tone was something else. The cold fury of a man who'd seen too much death and wouldn't tolerate any more. But remember your training, Ko continued. We don't fight like them. We don't line up in pretty formations and trade shots until someone breaks. We fight like humans. We fight like the children of a world that tried to kill us every single day for 1,000,000 years. Captain Choi Ji-hai's voice came through the cum from the mountain tiger. Admiral, my destroyers are ready to dance. We'll hit their flanks and cause some chaos. Negative, Captain. You're going to do more than cause chaos, Ko replied. You're going to show these bastards why every other species in the galaxy is afraid of humans and small ships. Take your destroyers and use the planet's gravity well. Slingshot maneuvers, just like we used to do around Titan during the mining wars. Park felt a grim smile cross his face. The slingshot maneuver was pure human insanity, using a planet's gravity to accelerate small ships to incredible speeds, then using that momentum to punch through enemy formations. It was dangerous, requiring split-second timing and nerves of steel. Other species considered it reckless suicide. Humans called it Tuesday. Commander Park, Admiral Ko's voice addressed him directly. You're with me on the center push. We're going to punch right through their main line and show them what happens when you murder children. Across the void of space, aboard the massive Vorthok battleship Bone Crusher, General Thrax studied the approaching human fleet with something between amusement and contempt. The reptilian alien was 8 feet tall, scaled hide scarred from a dozen campaigns of conquest. His species had been conquering worlds for 3,000 years, and these primitive mammals thought they could challenge the Dominion's might? Weapon Master Core, Thrax addressed his chief gunner. How long to destroy these insects? Perhaps 10 minutes, General, the younger Vorthok replied, his claws dancing over the weapon controls. Their ships are small and lightly armored. Our plasma cannons will cut through them like paper. Excellent. Destroy them quickly, then resume the cleansing of this world. I want every Zephyrian settlement reduced to ash before nightfall. X turned to look at the planet below, through the bridge's massive viewports. The sight of burning cities filled him with satisfaction. The Zephyrians had been marked for extermination because they'd helped the humans during their plague years. The Galactic Council might pretend to value peace and cooperation, but the Vorthok Dominion understood that the galaxy belonged to the strong. General, his tactical officer, called out, "The human ships are moving into attack formation." There. Sir, they're not following standard battle doctrine. Thrax frowned as he watched the tactical display. The human ships were splitting up, moving in seemingly random patterns. 3 destroyers were diving toward the planet, using its gravity to accelerate to dangerous speeds. The larger cruisers were spreading out in a loose formation that made no military sense. Foolish mammals, he muttered. They panic when faced with superior firepower. All weapons, prepare to fire on my command. The first exchange of fire lit up the space around New Haven like a miniature star being born. Vorthok plasma beams lanced out in perfect formation, brilliant green energy that could melt through ship hulls like butter. But the human ships weren't. Where they were supposed to be, Captain Choi's destroyers came screaming around the planet's limb. Their engines pushed far beyond safe limits. The Mountain Tiger led the charge, her hull glowing from atmospheric friction as she skimmed the planet's upper atmosphere. Missile pods erupted from her flanks, sending dozens of warheads streaking toward the Vorthok formation. All weapons, fire. Commander Park shouted from the bridge of the Iron Phoenix. Railguns that could punch through asteroid hulls opened up, sending streams of hypervelocity projectiles toward the enemy fleet. Particle beams designed to cut through space debris carved glowing lines across the darkness. The human attack was chaos given form. Ships dove and weaved through the Vorthok formation like angry wasps, never staying in one place long enough for the enemy's heavy weapons to lock on. They used the planet's gravity, the debris fields, even the burning orbital stations as cover, turning the entire battlefield into a 3-dimensional maze of death. Impossible, General Thrax snarled, as human missiles slammed into his flagship shields. They fight like animals, without order or discipline. Sir, his tactical officer reported, his voice shaking, we've lost 3 destroyers and 2 cruisers. The humans are using ramming attacks, sir. They're actually using their ships as weapons. Thrax watched in horror as a human frigate, her engines overloading and her hull breached in a dozen places, slammed into the side of a Vorthok heavy cruiser. The explosion lit up space for thousands of kilometers, taking both ships with it. "Insane," he whispered. "What kind of species uses their own ships as missiles?" The answer came from Lieutenant Commander Yoon aboard the Iron Wolf as his ship rolled through a gap in the Vorthok formation, her weapons blazing. "The kind that remembers their friends," he said into his cum, knowing the enemy was listening. "The kind that doesn't let children die alone in the dark." The battle for New Haven had begun, and the Vorthok were learning something that would echo through the galaxy for generations to come. Humans didn't fight like other species. They fought like the survivors of a world that had tried to kill them every single day. And they brought that same savage determination to the stars. Children of Earth had come to collect a debt, and they would not be denied. Captain Nam Tae-hin had seen war before. He'd fought pirates in the asteroid belt, battled separatists in the outer colonies, and survived 3 ship-to-ship boarding actions that left him with scars across his chest. But nothing had prepared him for what his sensors were showing him. Now the Soul's hammer shuddered as another Vorthok plasma beam grazed her shields, but Nam barely noticed. His attention was fixed on the tactical display showing the wreckage of a Zephyrian schoolship floating among the debris. The vessel's hull was painted with bright colors and happy symbols, the way the bird-like aliens decorated anything meant for their children. Now it was just twisted metal and silence. "Captain, are you reading this?" his sensor officer called out, her voice breaking. "The ship's emergency logs are still transmitting. They had 800 children aboard, ages 4 to 12. Vorthok hit them while they were trying to reach the evacuation jump point." Nam's hands trembled as he gripped the command chair. 800 children. Babies, really, by Zephyrian standards. He remembered visiting New Haven 2 years ago during a diplomatic mission, watching Zephyrian youngsters play in the Crystal Gardens. Their small, feathered bodies bright with joy as they chased floating light moths through the air. "May, sir, I'm detecting similar wreckage patterns throughout the system," the sensor officer continued, tears streaming down her face. "Medical ships, civilian transports, even the orbital nurseries. They targeted the children first. Something deep and ancient awakened in Nam's chest, a fury that went beyond anger into something primal and terrible. This wasn't war. This was extermination. These monsters had hunted down fleeing children like animals, vaporizing them with weapons designed to crack planets. "All ships, this is Captain Nam," he said into the fleet communication channel, his voice carrying a cold fury that made even veteran spacers throughout the human fleet stop what they were doing to listen. These butchers murdered children. Babies who never hurt anyone, who spent their lives learning to heal and grow things. Show them what happens when you anger the sons and daughters of Earth. The response was immediate and terrifying. Across the human fleet, something fundamental shifted. The disciplined military formation dissolved as captains stopped following textbook tactics and started following something older. Something written into human DNA by millions of years of evolution. On a world that bred killers, Lieutenant Commander Yoon's Iron Wolf was the first to change course. Instead of maintaining his position in the battle line, he dove straight at the nearest Vorthok heavy cruiser, his engines pushed far beyond safety limits. His ship wasn't just attacking anymore, it was hunting. "Wolf 2, all vessels, Yoon's voice crackled across the cum, filled with deadly purpose. "I'm going to ram the bastards. If my ship dies, make sure it counts." The Iron Wolf slammed into the Vorthok cruiser Blood Spear at nearly 10% of light speed. The explosion was visible from 3 star systems away, taking both ships, and cruised to hell together. But Yoon's sacrifice tore a hole in the enemy formation that the other human ships poured through like wolves sensing weakness. "Captain, Choi's destroyers had been dancing around the Vorthok flanks, but now they turned. Inward with predatory focus, the Mountain Tiger led 3 other destroyers in a coordinated attack that ignored every rule of space combat. Instead of maintaining safe distances, they closed to point-blank range, their hulls scraping against Vorthok shields as they poured. Fire into enemy ships? "This is for the children," Choi snarled into her cum as her ship's main guns punched through a Vorthok destroyer's armor. "This is for every innocent life you took." Aboard the Soul's hammer, Nam watched his tactical display transform from an orderly battle into something that looked more like a feeding frenzy. Human ships were abandoning damaged vessels to board enemy craft, Marines fighting through alien corridors with a savagery that terrified even the warrior caste. Vorthok. Sergeant Kong Menesio led the first boarding party to breach the Vorthok cruiser Painbringer. The veteran Marine had fought in a dozen ground battles, but this was different. This was personal. As his team cut through the enemy ship's hull with plasma torches, he could hear his men talking to themselves, preparing for what they were about to do. "Remember the school ship?" Corporal Wu Donghan muttered as he checked his rifle. "Remember those kids who died scared and alone? No prisoners," added Private First Class Shineri, her face twisted with rage. "These things don't deserve to breathe the same air as decent people." The boarding action that followed was unlike anything in the galactic military databases. Human Marines fought through the Vorthok ship's corridors like they were hunting demons from hell. They used knives when their guns ran out of ammunition, fists when their knives broke, and teeth when they had nothing else left. Major Han Yujin commanded the assault team that fought its way to the Painbringer's bridge. The Zephyrian exchange officer who'd been serving on his ship had shown him pictures of his family on New Haven just last week. 3 children and a wife, all probably dead now. "Remember the children of New Haven," Han shouted as his team stormed. The bridge, his voice echoing through the ship's communication system. No quarter, no mercy. The Vorthok bridge crew fought back with desperate fury, but they'd never faced anything like enraged humans in close combat. These aliens were warriors, but humans were something different. Humans were survivors from a world where everything tried to kill them, where only the most savage and intelligent had lived long enough to reproduce. General Thrax watched from his flagship's bridge as his formation crumbled around him. The tactical display showed chaos spreading through his fleet like a plague. Human ships that should have been destroyed continued fighting, their crews using damaged vessels as guided missiles. Boarding parties were tearing through his ships, like viruses leaving only death in their wake. "These humans," he whispered to his tactical officer, his scaled hands shaking as he watched another of his cruisers disappear in a ball of fire. "They fight like nothing I've ever seen. They welcome death if it means killing us." "Sir, we're receiving reports from our boarding defense teams," the officer replied, his voice filled with terror. "The humans aren't taking prisoners. They're not following any civilized rules of war. They're just killing everything they find." Thrax had conquered 17 worlds during his military career. He'd seen brave defenders and desperate civilians, had faced enemy soldiers who fought with honor and skill, but he'd never encountered anything like this primal fury that the humans brought to battle. When the human frigate, Thunderstrike, rammed his flagship's escort destroyer, actually using their own ship as a weapon, Thrax finally understood what the Galactic Council meant when they called humans Deathworlders. These weren't just another military species. They were apex predators from a world that had forged them in constant conflict. And they'd brought that savage heritage to the stars. "All ships, retreat," he commanded, his voice breaking with panic. "Fall back to hyperspace immediately." But as the surviving Vorthok vessels tried to flee, Admiral Ko's voice echoed across all communication frequencies, reaching every ship in the system with a promise that would echo through galactic history. "Run, cowards," the old human admiral said, his words carrying the weight of absolute certainty. "Run back to whatever hole you crawled out of. But know this, we will find you. We will hunt you down like the animals you are, and we will make you pay for every Zephyrian life you took, every child you murdered, every innocent you destroyed." The remaining Vorthok ships jumped to hyperspace in panic, leaving behind the wreckage of nearly half their fleet. But they carried, with them, something more dangerous than any weapon, the knowledge that humanity had fully awakened to its role in the galaxy. The children of Earth had tasted blood. They had found it good. The Galactic Council chambers on Nexus Prime had never seen anything quite like this. Admiral Ko Minho walked through the massive doors flanked by his senior officers. Their black military uniforms, still bearing scorch marks from the battle at New Haven. Behind them, holographic displays showed the complete annihilation of General Thrax's fleet. images that had been broadcast across every civilized world in the galaxy. The chamber itself was a marvel of alien architecture, a crystalline dome that stretched 300 meters high, with delegates from 47 different species arranged in concentric circles around the central speaking platform. KO had been here once before, 3 years ago, when humanity had first petitioned for membership in galactic civilization. Back then, they'd treated him like a curiosity, a representative of a violent species that might someday learn to be civilized. Today, the atmosphere was very different. Ko could feel the tension in the air as he walked to the speaking platform. Some delegates watched him with open fear, their various alien features twisted with anxiety. Others studied him with calculating eyes, trying to figure out how this changed the balance of galactic power. A few looked at him with something that might have been respect. Council Speaker Morden dominated the central area, his crystalline form rising 20 feet into the air like a living diamond. The ancient being's species had helped found the Galactic Peace Accords 5,000 years ago, and his voice carried the weight of millennia when he spoke. Admiral Ko Minho of the human species. Morden's words resonated through the chamber like bells ringing. The council called this emergency session to formally censure humanity for its unauthorized military action in the New Haven system. Your species violated 17 different galactic treaties by engaging in combat without council approval. KO looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of delegates who had spent decades treating humanity as junior members of galactic civilization. He saw the Altarian ambassador, whose species had refused to help during the human plague years because it might set a precedent. A Centauri delegate, who had argued that humans were too violent to be trusted with advanced technology. The vegan representative, who had pushed for restrictions on human expansion because Deathworld species were inherently dangerous. However, Morden continued, his crystalline form flickering with uncertainty, given the comprehensive nature of your victory over the Vorthok Dominion. We find ourselves in an unprecedented situation. Your forces didn't just defeat General Thrax's fleet. You hunted them across 3 star systems and destroyed every single vessel. The Vorthok survivors are calling it the Massacre of the Void. Ko stepped forward, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustics. With respect, Speaker Morden, we didn't come here to ask permission to defend our friends. We came to inform you that the age of letting peaceful species face extinction while you debate proper procedures is over. A ripple of shock went through the assembled delegates. In 5,000 years of galactic civilization, no one had ever spoken to the council speaker like that. Captain Park Hyunwoo, standing behind KO with the other human officers, felt a grim satisfaction as he watched alien diplomats struggle to process what they'd just heard. Admiral KO, the Altarian ambassador, interjected, his blue-scaled face flushed with indignation. You cannot simply decide to ignore galactic law because you disagree with it. Humanity is bound by the same treaties as every other species. Really? KO turned to face the Altarian directly. And where were those treaties when the Zephyrians were being slaughtered? Where was galactic law when children were being hunted down in evacuation ships? Before the Altarian could respond, a new voice rose from the delegates' seating area. Ambassador Lyra Valinas of the Zephyrian Commonwealth stood up, her feathered crest raised high in a gesture of formal declaration. Had elected her as their representative just days after the battle. Choosing someone who had personally witnessed human courage under fire. Honored Council, Valina spoke in the melodic tones of her species, but her words carried steel beneath. The music, the Zephyrian people, formally request that humanity become our protector. We offer our worlds, our technology, our resources, and our lives in service to those who answered our desperate call when all others remained silent. The chamber erupted in shocked whispers and alien exclamations. This was unprecedented. Species didn't simply choose their own protectors, bypassing council authority. But before Morden could respond, another voice joined Valena's. As do the gentle ones of Arcturus, announced Ambassador Creolin, his plant-like form swaying as he spoke. The human fleet saved our colony ships from Vorthok raiders last month. We too request human protection. The Harmony World's Adar voice to this petition called out Delegate Circa, her crystalline wings chiming like bells. Humanity has proven they will fight for the innocent when others will not. One by one, representatives of peaceful species rose to make the same request. The Healing Gardens Coalition, the Crystal Song Alliance, the pacifist worlds of the Outer Rim, species that had been prey for aggressive empires for generations, suddenly saw hope in the dangerous children of Earth, co-watched with growing amazement as nearly a third of the Council's membership formally requested human protection. These were civilizations that had spent centuries trying to avoid conflict, hoping that diplomacy and good intentions would protect them from the galaxy's predators. Speaker. Morden's crystalline form flickered rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation in his species. This is highly irregular. Humans, you were supposed to be junior members of galactic civilization, learning to embrace peaceful solutions to conflict. The Council expected you to gradually abandon your violent tendencies and adopt civilized behavior. Ko's smile was cold. As winter on Earth, we learned something else instead. Speaker. We learned that sometimes peace can only be maintained by those willing to do violence on behalf of those who cannot. We learned that while you debate and form committees, innocent people die. Captain Park stepped forward to stand beside his Admiral. Tell the predators and warmongers out there that the Deathworlders are watching now. Tell them to remember New Haven. Tell them that humanity has decided to become what the galaxy needs us to be. The Vorthok delegate, one of the few survivors of Thrax's fleet, rose from his seat with obvious reluctance. The reptilian alien's scales were pale with fear as he addressed the chamber. The Dominion wishes to formally apologize for the New Haven incident. It was an unauthorized action by a rogue commander to seek peace with humanity. Ko's laugh was devoid of humor. Peace? Your rogue commander murdered 800,000 civilians, including children. The Vorthok Dominion will withdraw from all systems containing peaceful species, or we'll withdraw you ourselves, permanently. The threat hung in the air like a blade. Everyone in the chamber had seen the tactical recordings of human ships ramming Vorthok vessels, human marines fighting through alien corridors with a fury that terrified even warrior species. The message was clear. Humanity had moved beyond asking for a place at the galactic table. They were taking it. As the human delegation prepared to leave the council chambers, Ko turned back to address the assembled aliens one final time. From this day forward, any species that threatens the innocent will answer to us. Any empire that thinks genocide is acceptable policy will face the children of Earth. We didn't ask to be your guardians, but we're accepting the job. The doors of the council chamber closed behind the humans, leaving 47 alien species to contemplate a galaxy that had fundamentally changed overnight. In the months that followed, applications for human protection flooded in from peaceful worlds across the rim. The phrase "Remember New Haven" became a rallying cry that echoed across 1,000 systems whenever the strong threatened the weak. The Terran Protectorate was born that day, not through treaties or negotiations, but through blood and sacrifice, and the simple human belief that some things are worth fighting for. The galaxy's age of peaceful coexistence through diplomacy was over. The age of peace through superior firepower had begun. The end.